Stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for this day and every blessing of life. We thank you that you've let us live through another year and grow and be prosperous. We pray that you would bless us tonight and lead us in the correct direction. So in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Welly, please call the roll.
Ms. Blackburn. Ms. Albrecht.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Ms. Castro.
Here.
Mr. Tindler.
Here.
Next on our agenda is my comments. I've been in office now for 6 full months. It's been an interesting time and it's gone by very quickly. And I appreciate the opportunity. I first owe you an apology. Should have got more things done this 6 months, it seems like to me, but things go more slowly than you would expect sometime. But we have made some significant progress, and some of the things that have culminated tonight, like the canal contract tonight, our blueprint for our Parker Park, all these things are kind of all coming together at the end of the year for a Happy New Year. It's also a little disconcerting, some of the comments that I've heard over the last month. Seems like some of us are just really intolerant of others. It's real interesting. For example, the project over on 33rd Street, that's pretty interesting. I've had a lot more people that play here that have interest in this project more than the people who live here. And I find that pretty interesting. But all of that will culminate next week. If you've come to talk about that project tonight, it's probably not a good thing because we're not going to really talk about it tonight. We have a procedural matter that's going to be on the agenda, and we're going to take care of that matter. We're really letting all the public know that we have a meeting on the 15th of December. It is a second hearing that we have announced, and everyone will be invited to the public hearing and have all you say you want. Then the council will have a regular meeting after that, or a call special meeting actually, and we're going to vote on that project. So tonight's kind of business as usual, and I hope you're not disappointed. Council comments, please.
I'd like to report on CDC. We had a great tree lighting ceremony this past weekend, and thanks to Wiley from El Governor and for the city for helping him out. It looks absolutely beautiful once again. He always outdoes himself. Tomorrow there's a day trip to Wind Creek Casino in Alabama. CDC is also planning a Biloxi trip. I believe it's in January. Check with CDC for that. It's a 2-day trip to Biloxi. And of course, we are preparing to celebrate twice on New Year's Eve between Mexico Beach and Port St. Joe. And there will be buses, trolleys, transporting people from one county to the other so that you do not have to drive. You can have fun and not drive. And everybody will play it safe that night. Thank you.
Great.
Well, we're thinking alike again. I wanted to give the people an update on what we've gotten done this year. When I sat down recently with our city administrator and city clerk to review our progress this past year, it was rewarding to go through the list and to be reminded of how much we had achieved and how much work we still have in progress, and just what we've been able to get done for you this past year. I want to take just a few moments to tell you about some of the accomplishments that have a direct impact on you, your wallet, and your quality of life. First and foremost, if you notice your tax bill, we lowered your millage rate this year. That's the first time in years, I think, that our millage rate has been lowered, and I believe we were the only city in Bay County to do so. We did this by eliminating wasteful spending and improving efficiencies in order to do more with less of your tax dollars. With the help of Preble Rish, we've been aggressive in going after grants, state, and other funding to the tune of $6.8 million. That's millions of your dollars we don't have to spend. We also just voted to put $110,000 back into the operating fund. That's money we did not spend this past fiscal year. We made our boat ramp self-sufficient, taking that financial burden off of you. Our first season, we raised $17,000 in revenue, and we expect that to increase significantly next season. We hired a new auditing firm, which reduced the cost by thousands, but increased our level of service. We now have monthly help rather than just annual, once-a-year help. We hired a new city attorney, a true municipal attorney, and if you've attended our pre-agenda workshops, you know the value add we've already seen. We asked our CDC for additional funding, and this year we had an increase. They gave us a lump sum award of $50,000. Again, that was $50,000 of your money that we didn't have to spend. We're improving your infrastructure. The mayor mentioned the canal. Our canal is finally getting the attention it needs. If approved, I should say when approved tonight, we could see that begin as early as February 2016. And the majority of the almost $3 million price tag will come from grants and other funding sources. We received over $200,000 in grants and county funds to improve our parks. Before spring, Under the Palms on 7th Street will have a paved walking path, playground equipment, benches, and picnic tables, while Municipal Park will see $50,000 in equipment and landscaping improvements. And in just a few weeks, we will be, actually it's on the agenda tonight to see the plans for Parker Park. Sunset Park got a facelift. We made some improvements to the pier area. Thank you, Philip. And Canal Park will be on the radar once the canal restoration is complete. We've gotten aggressive with repairs and maintenance. We are in the process of rehabbing all of our sewer lift stations to correct a problem with groundwater infiltration that's been costing you thousands each year, 4 years. We now have an official stormwater master plan, which will help us improve the flooding issues that so many of our property owners have faced. And while our city hall isn't built, we are taking the time to explore additional options in order to make a prudent decision so that we ensure that our city hall will serve the city for years to come. We don't want to do this again in a few years. We've worked to protect your rights, to know what's going on and how our decisions affect you. We amended our meeting ordinance, moving the times to 6 p.m. so working citizens can come to the meetings. We launched our new city website, and pretty soon you're going to have the ability from our city website to search all of our ordinance and laws at the click of your mouse. We've just completed an upgrade of our technology infrastructure at City Hall. You'll be able to view the meetings as soon as we complete that work on our city website. We established the Citizens Advisory Board to help with the City Hall decision, and we reestablished the Planning and Zoning Board, which gives you more voice in the process. The list doesn't stop there, but my time is limited. I want to remind you that we have done all these things while lowering your property tax rate. There's so much we have left on our radar for the upcoming year and so much work left to do. As your council, we can proudly say that we're saving you money, we're improving your quality of life, and we're getting the job done. I want to thank our city staff for putting up with us, first of all, and for all of your hard work, because we couldn't have done it without you. And to my colleagues on the council, high five, guys. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. So, that pretty much said it all.
Says it all.
I agree with the mayor that being from business, we have meetings and we decide what to do and we do it right away. This government thing is a whole lot different. You know, it just drags on and on and on. I'm not used to it, but at least we are making progress here and there. So we hope to continue it.
Amen to that.
All right, citizens' comments. Is there any, there is someone who wants to make a citizen's comment. I couldn't believe it. 3 minutes, please, ma'am. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Candace Burgess, 417 California Drive. I'd like to make a comment about last night's meeting with Planning and Zoning. Our hardworking city staff was attacked last night by people coming to the podium to oppose the zoning change for the proposed hotel. I felt the city staff did a very fair and unbiased presentation of the facts for the Planning and Zoning Board's information purposes. The comments were mean-spirited and unfounded. I hope tonight or in future nights, people will make their comments without insults and accusations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? Fantastic. Okay, moving right along. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our consent agenda of the meetings that we had over the last month. Motion to adopt our consent agenda.
So
I just had one, I'm sorry, I just had
No,
one
go on.
correction. It has, for the November 10th meeting, the heading says August 11th meeting.
Already changed in the computer.
That's it. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions about it? Okay. Motion to adopt our consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Castro?
Yes.
Mr. Tindler?
Yes.
Okay. Scheduled appearances, Mr. Jerry Wallace, please.
Jerry Wallace, 418 Arizona. I just had a few observations that I thought the community really needs to know about. Our city started with about $800,000 of insurance money as a result of the house on the Parker property. Now, for various reasons, some unnecessary, some very necessary, the city has about $525,000 in the City Hall fund. The city had an opportunity to purchase a two-story commercial building on 98 at 33rd Street for $375,000. Could have moved into this building in January. $375 from $525,000 is $150,000. I said $150,000. The building has 7 offices, public and private restrooms, handicapped accessible. It's two-story, about 18 to 22% saved in heating and cooling a two-story building. And it's 2,100 square feet, which would take care of the city for several years with ample parking. Again, $375 from $525 is $150,000 in the city's hand that we let get away because we were a little lax in pushing the effort. Some people were totally against it. In the last few days, I've talked to probably 25 or 30 people. I had 2 people that thought I was crazy about suggesting the idea. I had one person that wanted to think about it. Everybody else thought it was a no-brainer to purchase the property. And that way we were sure of what the city was out for a city hall building. We've been kicking the city hall building around now for, I don't know, 200 years it seems like. Some people wanted time to think about it, similar to what the council asked for. But everybody liked it being on 98. Everyone liked the idea of a sign identifying City Hall with a reader board to show various upcoming events of the city. As most of the people that live here know, we don't get the word out very well about coming events. I talked with the building owner today, and he is no longer interested in selling that property to the city. We didn't show the proper interest, and we didn't move with any kind of speed like Mr. Tindler talks about. I understand that. I've been in business too. But sometimes in order to save $150,000, it's good to move a little faster. Now the city is paying an appraiser $700 to appraise the Foley property. Sounds like they're putting the cart in front of the horse to me. Why are we paying $700 to have that appraised? If Mr. Foley gave us a price and then it was necessary to have it appraised, I understand it. But why throw away $700? It's just $700. It's not $150,000. And if he'd had his asking price beforehand, because he's got to tell us a price sooner or later, then we could have made up our mind on that. But that's just a few things that kind of irritates me, and in talking with some of the citizens in the community, they're kind of irritated about it. And I know, as Ms. Castro said, the city council has done a lot of things this last year for a positive. But some of these things kind of get under my skin, and that's why I'm running for city council in 2016. Thank you.
Y'all saw that veiled announcement, and also he might have emphasized 150,000, I'm not sure. Thank you, Jerry. Ms. Candace Burgess.
I have very exciting good news. Bay County passed a resolution to ban fracking on December 1st. They went along with the Florida Association of Counties in their assessment of the two bills about banning that include the trade secrets, so that the fracking industry doesn't have to disclose chemicals that they inject into the ground and possibly contaminate our aquifer and water wells and everything else. And they take away states' rights by saying that they would take away your right to regulate. If they were to come in here, you would have no rights to regulate the industry or even pass zoning laws. So they opposed that. Bay County, after we spoke to them, stood up and Guy Tunnel stood up and made a motion saying that he wanted to support the Florida Association of Counties, and that he wanted to prohibit fracking in Bay County. So we were very excited about that. Then the attorney drew up the paperwork or the resolution and actually omitted the part about banning the fracking. So that is now back to the drawing board, but the city or the county manager has assured me that all of the council members, or commissioners rather, discussed it, agreed that that was left off, so it is going to be part of the resolution. So what was printed in the newspaper last Friday was just a partial of that resolution. It will include a ban on fracking. And this morning, Gulf County actually passed a ban on fracking also. So they followed in Bay County's footsteps. So it was a two-part with the Association of Counties and banning fracking in Gulf County. So I would like to have you all go ahead tonight, and even though I guess we're missing a person, take a vote, as you assured me last time I was here that you would. And I would like to add Mexico Beach to this growing list of counties and cities that have passed a ban on fracking. And we actually have Wakulla County that is added on here, and December 15th seems to be a very, very busy day across the state of Florida, because Orange County and several other large counties are actually voting on the 15th as well to add the ban to their counties. So we're close. If all of these pass, then we will be at or above the 50% mark for population represented that want a ban on fracking. So anybody have any questions for me, comments?
This was left off the agenda, was it not?
I haven't seen a resolution.
There's a resolution in the packet.
It was in the packet.
But we had not reviewed that resolution.
Was provided the last.
Yeah, when I was here, it was in the packet, yeah.
I've got it in my yellow packet, but
Yeah.
it hadn't been customized for us just right. We will look at doing that at our next meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to comment
Need to look at that.
on fracking. Candace, don't take this personal, I have just a different opinion. I don't know a lot about fracking, other than it has been a tremendous boon to the United States energy production. It's been done in over 1 million wells in the United States. And if all these problems, these horrible things that I read in this "Why Not to Frack" were true, the media would be all over it like they are the San Bernardino shootings. So, not knowing a whole lot about fracking other than it's led to a lot more stuff, oil and gas, I tried to look up some of these facts in the presentation we received. It says that earthquake damage is costing communities millions of dollars a year, and says that earthquakes are being caused by fracking. I looked up a study from the National Geographic, U.S. Geographic Survey on earthquakes, and they're pretty stable over the past 20 years on numbers. Of course, they're up and down every year because nature has its own agenda. But the states with the largest dollar loss are all the states that are in earthquake zones: California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, around New Madras Falls, and over near Charleston and Virginia. The fracking earthquakes are because fracking, with sense the name, fractures the rock. So when you're fracking a well, some of the rock fractures, and that's picked up by a seismology station. They call it, they have a name for it. It's not really an earthquake, it's a tremor in the earth caused by the rock cracking. So the fact that they say it costs millions of dollars a year, but none of those dollars are related, or almost none, I can't say none, are related to the fracking earthquakes. It states that California produce is now possibly contaminated, like it may possibly contaminate our groundwater. I mean, you know, possibly is kind of out there a little bit. Fracking is performed in areas of hard rock shale. Florida is made up of limestone rock, which is porous. Fracking would not be necessary here. Moving through the presentation some further, one of the bad things about crystalline silica in the form of sand that they use to pump down the wells can cause lung disease. Well, we live on one of the greatest silica sand beaches in America. Is lung disease a problem here? Continuing through it, they make statements like chemically tainted soil has increased 5,100% in the past decade. Well, if you go from 1 to 50, that's 5,000%. So there's no correlation to back up this statement other than to scare you. Earthquakes, I did that part. It also says that in Pennsylvania, 234 private drinking wells were found to be contaminated. Now, they don't know that those are all contaminated by fracking. There are over 3,000 wells being fracked in the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania, and you can figure that around those 3,000 wells, there are thousands upon thousands of personal wells. So we've got 234 that are contaminated. And I saw an article in the 1823 New York Times that talked about flaming waters in this area of Pennsylvania. The waters were catching on fire in 1823 when there was no well in America. And this is because petroleum naturally seeps to the surface some places. We also have petroleum seeps out in the Gulf of Mexico that cause sheens on the ocean, not man-made. So the 234 is a tiny little bit, and only some portion of that is actually possibly done, in the word possibly, by fracking. So I think this is a partisan political agenda that this comes out from. It's trying to promote the environmentalist viewpoint. completely without thinking of the other side. If you folks are familiar with the environmentalist agenda regarding redfish and the Gulf fisheries, you know what I'm talking about. It also says, I lost that page, that the area being investigated is limestone and sandstone. The company that's wanting to do the test, the test seismology tests, says they don't have any intention to frack. Now, it doesn't mean they wouldn't, but there's no need to frack limestone. It's going to break naturally. I mean, it's porous. You're just going to suck it out like a sponge. So the fact that we're not even in the zone, that this basin, this oil basin, Mexico Beach is not even in it, and the fact that we're on sand, fracking is a moot point. I think this whole thing is an exercise in a political statement rather than fact. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to refute some of that, and please don't take offense to this, Jeff, but you sound like an oil and gas lobbyist. Those are the type of things that they say to refute the things that are really happening to real people out there. And they do report about it in the newspapers. The Associated Press analysis found over 20,000 fracking spills in oil and gas producing states between 2009 and 2014, which led to 175 million gallons of wastewater being spilled in nearby areas. Inevitable accidents, leaks, and spills of toxic drilling and fracking waste threaten vital resources, while toxic waste that doesn't come back up to the surface creates long-term risk to vital drinking water sources. I really don't accept any risk to my drinking water, and I don't think any of us should. The Chula Petroleum Company that is doing the seismic exploration as close as Weewahichka is a fracking company. They would not be here checking for oil and gas if they did not plan to frack for it. And I'm sure there is oil there. They've, from what I understand, they pulled oil out a long time ago, but they are actually, with fracking, they are able to go down to the Jurassic layer in order to reach hard to reach oil reservoirs, and they can get at it by fracking. And as to you had so many points that I could refute. I could be up here for an hour. You talked about the limestone.
Let's please wrap it up.
Okay, real quick. Let me just talk about the limestone, because that's what we have here.
You were allowed 7 minutes.
They use acidizing, and it's called acidized fracking. It actually melts the sandstone, or the limestone, sand, and mud solids. They use hydrofluoric acid, and according to the Centers for Disease Control, it is one of the most hazardous industrial chemicals in use. It is listed by the National Fire Protection Association in the most dangerous category of hazardous materials and is recognized on the Superfund list as an extremely hazardous substance. It can cause severe burns to the skin and eyes and cause lung damage. Let's
I
see
think
what
you're
else.
quoting from the literature that we have.
No, actually, I'm not.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your position, and we will vote on the resolution.
Okay, all right.
We'll bring the resolution and vote on it.
Thank you.
I just want to make one comment. I saw somewhere where Linda was thanking you for stepping out, and I thank you, because that's a tough thing that you're doing, going to counties and cities and doing that.
Yeah.
And I thank you for taking your time
Yeah.
to do that.
One thing real quick, go to earthquakeok.gov, and they will give you a lot more information about the Oklahoma earthquakes. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Rish?
I think all of you know me, Lena Bautista with Provo Rish. I'm going to give you the project updates, and there's a few items on this list that I believe I'll discuss in further detail later on the agenda. The alternate water source. I sound like a broken record with this one. We are still trying to find a property suitable and far enough north that we're out of the portion of the water that would be unsuitable for us to use without treatment for that project. The canal, as announced last week, we bid the project, and we recommend awarding the base bid to the lowest bidder, H.G. Harder Son Incorporated, in the amount of $2.3 million. Currently, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation is working on the agreement to combine both that grant, the BIG grant, in the amount of $750,000, with the NERDA funding in the amount of $1.7 million. They've told me 2 weeks in a row now that they'll have that agreement to me, but I have yet to see it. So I'm sure that'll be coming Mel's way soon. Also, later in the agenda, I believe Mel will be presenting this. We'd like to present the city with a task order for the construction engineering inspection services for the canal. The Northwest Florida Stormwater Grant, that's wrapping up. The baffle boxes have been installed. However, we cannot finish the project and backfill and close it up until Suntree, the manufacturer, comes back to inspect those. And then they will notify Northwest Florida and sign off on it, and then they can wrap that portion of it up. Also included to be discussed later in the agenda is the change order number 6 for that project, which would kind of summarize all of the changes throughout construction, including ADS flared in sections for the pipes. As you remember, we had to cut out the mitered in sections because we were trying to get it back into the allowed funding. So I'll discuss that further, but it also includes an extension to the contract date to allow, hopefully, to allow us to get the permit resolved for the 24th Street paving and also the trail and the boat ramp. So. The Stormwater Master Plan, we did get an update. I'm going to cover both the Stormwater Master Plan and the inflow and infiltration projects. We got an update from SRF, and we were added to the funding list for the fiscal year of 2016. However, the city does not qualify for grant funds. It has to be to disadvantaged communities, and I guess we are just not disadvantaged enough, so we do qualify for a loan. The deadline to submit would be March 9th of 2016, so that's just something to think about. And we continue to look for other funding sources for both of those. We have a few in mind, and when those cycles come open, we'll apply. We're on hold with City Hall. 24th Street, I think everyone's aware of the issue with the deed, so that's kind of on hold until that can be resolved. I did want to say Kathy Hobbs was immediate in responding, and she did sign her portion of the quick claim deed to the city. However, the other two sisters, Mel's tried to contact several times and has not gotten a response. So that will be permanently on hold until we can get it resolved. The Parker Park will be presented later. And the other projects, I mean, these have been on the list for a while. I can go through them, but I think we all are familiar with them. So that should be it, unless you have questions.
How late are we finishing the stormwater project on 15th Street?
The stormwater portion of the contract should be finished by the end of the month. It has to be finished by the end of the month for the funding. The extension would be only for the portions outside of the Northwest Florida grant money. So only the paving portions. And I proposed giving them till January 31st. They assured me they could do it faster than that, but again, that's just in hopes that maybe we can get something resolved on 24th Street and go ahead and get it done. So January 31st is what we're looking at for the other portions of it, the park, the boat ramp, and the street. They're supposed to be back out the end of this week to do the final wrap up on on the ditches. Now, Suntree has kicked back a few times. They said they won't be back to inspect the baffle boxes until the 15th of December. So,
Next week.
yes.
Does anybody else want, I have a concern about, keep putting off those change orders. We could have already had it done by now.
Right. The change orders for the ditches, I've really been pushing to get that done, that section, because I realize I have to drive by there every day. So every time it rains, it gets worse. I understand that. But I do think the ADS flared-in sections are going to help solve that problem. And I didn't want to write up all of the other change orders and not include that in it. But we were trying to get the pricing figured out and make sure that we would have a good price to give you. So it was part of getting the pricing and then making sure that that would be addressed before I presented all the other change orders.
I mean, I get mobilization cost, and when the baffle boxes that Northwest Florida is requiring us to install were not available, you can't really find fault with the contractor on that.
Right.
Not their problem, that was our problem. And I understand they just can't sit out here and wait until those come in. They would have been waiting for months. So I understand that they were somewhat restricted, but if we're going to wrap it up by the end of this year, we're only talking about a couple more weeks.
True.
But we've got to get it done. And I'm so happy that we're looking at the flared ends, because everybody who lives in that area, when they did the water project, we had the same issue with those ditches on 15th Street. It just, they look good at first, and then they start eroding around those pipes. So I think I think you're right. That's going to.
It will allow us to do some additional backfill behind them. And I've been torn because I want it done. I want it done every time it starts raining. But at the same time, I don't want to disturb it twice. And they're going to have to do earthwork. They're going to have to dig out the ditches again. And it's costing them money. It hurts them to not be able to wrap it up. But I hate to have them finish it, reseed it, and then come back and disturb it again once we get the end sections in. They have been delivered, so we should be good to go. But no, they have, okay.
I saw them there.
Yeah, and also I did want to point out, after the first time that they seeded, we asked them to change the seed mix to a much faster growing, sturdier, and I don't know if you all have noticed, but that second round of seed actually took better. So I'm hopeful that once we get the end sections in and we're able to backfill behind it better and come back with the final seeding, it will be more stable.
I just have one question on the 24th Street project. We have 2 homes under construction there. What does this mean for those 2 homeowners, the fact that we don't have a street and we can't put a street in?
Well, we allowed the development order to proceed, assuming that the city had ownership of 24th Street, which, as you know, we do not. So that's why that was allowed to go on. I called the 2 sisters, and they won't return my calls. They won't answer their phone. So I left voicemail messages to try to get in touch with them. Kathy has reached out to them as well. And so far, we haven't made the connection. I even called one of the husbands and still no reply. Normally, a home has to have frontage on a public street, and that is a problem if we can't get that accomplished. The great thing about the deed that is there now, it does say specifically that it's for the use of the public street. So there should be no question of what the use is for. Using that property that's not ours might be problematic in the short term, but construction, people have been using it quite extensively in the past few months during construction. So we'll do our best to get this buttoned up and make it all right.
Thank you. Mr. Whitley, let the record reflect that Ms. Blackburn's going to council at about 6:36.
I apologize.
No problem. Okay, do we have a fire department representative?
We do not, Your Honor.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is actually a public hearing where we will take any comments from the floor tonight. It's on a lot split on 107A 31st Street. If you're not familiar with these buildings are, it's It's right here behind us. It's on this end of 31st Street. There are 4 apartments back there in 2 different buildings. Bill, you want to tell us anything about this place and the recommendation?
Petitioner, Highsmith and Mazzolati, has requested a lot split for the property at 107A 31st Street. The property contains 2 two-story stucco townhome structures on approximately a little over 1/3 of an acre. Due to family reasons, they want to split that lot. That is a general commercial lot, which normally does not require setbacks for general commercial. However, when you put a residence in a general commercial area, you have to follow residential setbacks. There are currently 15 feet between the 2 buildings. The line, of course, will be split right in between those. So that meets the requirement there. However, each of the 2 buildings has a staircase that is in that 15-foot area. And the reason for the variance that we'd like to consider tonight is the fact that we would allow that stairway or those stairways to be in the variance property. The Plan and Zoning Commission did consider this and did recommend it for approval with the condition that the variance applies just to the stairway and no other potential structure.
Please help me remember, they're not asking for a zoning change, they still want it to be general commercial.
Correct. So no zoning change at all. Because when you split a lot, it has to comply with the current zoning regulations. And because of those stairways, it does not. And that's the only issue that is at hand. So by providing that variance for the stairway, then they're in compliance and everything is good.
And these people don't intend to tear these buildings down.
I'm not aware that that's the case.
No, we're not going to tear them down.
Okay. Open the floor for public comment. If you have a comment, please come to the podium and tell us who you are and where you live. Okay, hearing none. Are there questions from the table? Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's a resolution further down.
Way further down, we got it.
On 2015.
Yeah. All right. Hold that thought just a second. Motion to read Resolution 2015-29 by title only.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Mr. Wells, please read this resolution by title.
Resolution 2015-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, approving lot split and variance and providing an effective date.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard the proposed resolution to approve this lot split. This is the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Committee?
Yes, sir. With that condition.
With condition. Chair will entertain a motion to
Question, please.
approve.
Does this resolution doesn't mention the address? Does that matter?
It does in the text, does it not?
We mentioned the parcel number, but if you wish, we could insert the text before the mayor signs the resolution.
So the actual resolution's in our packet.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't catch it. You have to forgive us, it's 119 pages.
It lists the address in the resolution as well.
Just got that.
All right, do we have any, would like to discuss it before a motion? On the table. Okay. Read the resolution, I need a motion to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2015-29.
We have a motion to adopt the resolution for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Ms. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Castro?
Yes.
Mr. Tindler?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next 2 items on the agenda are procedural items. They're both first reading of ordinance ordinances that have to do with the rezoning and amendment of the master plan about 33rd and 34th Street. Just in case, if you're listening and you don't understand, we as a council, no one on the council brought these things up because we are in favor of these necessarily. This is a procedure to notify the public that these things are on the agenda for the public hearing and decision on the 15th. Okay. Motion to read ordinance 627 by title only.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Please read the title of ordinance 627.
Ordinance number 627, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, providing for the amendment to the future land use map to change the future land use category for a portion of the property attached hereto in Exhibit A from tourist residential to tourist commercial, providing for severability and reciting an effective date.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is ordinance 628. Motion to read ordinance 628 by title only
Can I interject something here?
on 627.
Yeah, which one's 627?
The first one you
The
just...
first one we just
Oh,
did.
okay, sorry, no. No, I don't need to interject anything on that one.
Yes, sir.
I have a question to the council. Why is this reading of the, why is this whole thing being pushed through with a special meeting of the planning and zoning last night, now another special meeting of the council on the 5th? Why is this not being done? Is it because of the contractor, the developer that's wanting this done in a hurry? Is it because of our city manager? That's my question. This thing is being pushed fast when my personal analysis is the majority of the people of Mexico Beach does not approve of what you are reading these ordinances. And my understanding is, of course, as you well know, each of you are representing the majority of the people of Mexico Beach. So I have that question. Who is pushing this thing through so fast to have these special meetings? Thank you.
I approve the special meeting. It's a matter of procedure, and we're going to dot every I and cross every T. Guaranteed. Motion to read ordinance 628 by title only.
So moved.
I have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
This is 628?
Yes.
Okay,
628.
now, can I say something?
Can we read it first?
Sure.
Okay.
Ordinance 628, an ordinance rezoning a portion of the property attached hereto in Exhibit A from tourist residential to tourist commercial within the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, containing approximately 2.6 acres more or less, providing for severability and reciting an effective date.
Okay. Questions or answers or observations from the table, please?
Okay. I just wanted to say something. I've been made aware that some people think I've been biased against this rezoning issue. I've obviously, and want me to recuse myself from this voting. Typically, when a council person recuses themselves from voting, it's because of a financial benefit for the vote. In this case, it's not that. In this case, it's been said that I have a bias against the project, against the rezoning. We're not voting on a hotel project here. In this meeting specifically, we're only reading the ordinance. We're not voting to approve or reject. However, it's been widely publicized that I have been very vocal about the validity of the PUD. That's not what this is about. I did want to get it out there, though. I mean, I've said that in a public meeting. I have had lots of ex parte communication. People have called me, emailed me, stopped me on the street to voice their opinion, to ask questions about this entire process. I have done what I always do when somebody approaches me. I respond to them. I can say thank you, I can listen for sure, and I've answered questions. I have never told anybody how I was going to vote on any issue. That being said, I am going to recuse myself from voting on this rezoning issue because I do not want in any way, perceived or real, to deny anybody their due process. So I will be abstaining.
Do you have the note? Make sure it's in the official minutes of this meeting, please. Something you missed was that we weren't going to talk about these tonight. Ordinance 631, next item on the agenda. This is the dog ordinance, in case you're here for the dogs.
Wait a minute. 629.
I'm sorry, let me back. 629 and 630 have been withdrawn.
Your Honor, if you wish me to explain why.
Please do.
At the plan and zoning hearing, the proposal from petitioners didn't meet with very much positive opinions. And when we discussed this briefly at our meeting last week, they too didn't meet with positive opinions. It was inferred, however, because that is zoned residential low density there, just north of Paradise Shores, that if the petitioner would adjust their plan and put in a small subdivision of single-family homes that would comply with the LDR, then that would be, probably would be acceptable. So having referred that to the petitioners, I did meet with them last week. They decided to pull their current proposal and start working up a single-family subdivision. So that will be coming forth at some point in the future.
Thank you, Mel. Yes, ma'am.
If they're withdrawing these two ordinances, and they're looking into doing a subdivision, why do they need to change the land use to tourist residential? Why wouldn't that be?
They don't, that's why the ordinance have been pulled.
All of them are withdrawn?
No, those two.
All four of them?
No, ma'am. Those two.
29 and 30.
29 and 30, they pertain to the property over by, behind, or close to Toucans. The petitioner won't need any kind of change to zoning if he goes with single-family homes.
627 says the same thing.
Ordinance 631. This is the ordinance about the dogs. Please, motion to read ordinance 631 by title only.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Please read the title of ordinance 631.
Ordinance 631, an ordinance amending ordinance number 555, repealing all ordinances or sections of ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date.
Okay, this is a first reading, and at the next regular scheduled meeting, we'll have a second reading of this ordinance. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we're considering whether to allow dogs west of the canal in Mexico Beach legally. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a resolution that's already been taken care of. So we move on to other business. The cell tower lease. Mel?
Your Honor, we left this at the last meeting, there was going to be a minor adjustment in this lease. The only thing that was changed is on page 3, number 6, on the third line from the bottom where it says, as defined in Florida statutes, chapter 73.071, the language has been changed to Florida law. Because this is a 30-year lease extension, statute numbers change over time, so it was agreed by both parties that changing it to Florida law would just take care of whatever changes are made over time. The originals I've already given to Adrian to have signed by the mayor. We'll need a couple of witnesses. We'd also have a signed piece of paper that when we make this motion to approve this evening, that have the council designate the mayor to sign on behalf of the city council. And that way you all don't have to sign, it'll be just him.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to accept our new cell tower lease.
So moved.
We have a motion to accept the lease, the new cell tower lease. Do we have a second?
Second.
Question on the floor, please.
Can we go back to 631, sir? I wasn't familiar with this, and I just heard y'all talking about it, and I might have some information.
Let me help you after that. All we did was a first reading tonight.
I just want to comment.
Did we get a second?
Yes, second.
Okay. Any other comments about the cell tower lease? Ms. Wells, call the roll.
Ms. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Ms. Castro?
Yes.
Mr. Tindler?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Parker Park, Pebble Ridge again.
You all have the exhibit? Yes? Okay. So Gina asked me to present this to you. This is her concept plan for the Parker Park, excuse me. Wanted to point out the big features that she includes. Obviously, the parking, which we would discuss options as far as whether that would be grassed, gravel, pavement. A portion of it that she shows as golf cart parking, she intends that area under the trees to be grassed, and we would designate the parking spaces with curb stops, concrete curb stops. She also, it's probably hard to see in your printout, but she is trying to conserve the trees throughout that area. So the ones that have an X are the ones that would have to be removed in order to allow the parking. I did look at, obviously this is just a first presentation, we're hoping to get comments back from you all. I did look at the parking area there with the golf cart parking. Those are small stalls, and depending on how you want to go about this, that could be reconfigured for full parking spaces, a full vehicle space, and would it allow an additional 11 spaces. So based on her layout now, we have 49 total spaces if we were to make the golf cart spaces full 10 by 20 stalls.
One comment there. I don't think golf carts can get into the park.
No.
They can't ride Highway 98, so there wouldn't be
Right.
a reason to have golf cart
Okay,
parking.
so I'll tell her about that portion.
Golf carts could also park on a grassy area. rather
They
than-
could, yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's quite a bit of green space around the parking area that I think would serve just as well if someone were to come with their golf cart. Okay, so also included, she's showing a sidewalk coming up the entrance from Highway 98 along the top of the wall. And she does say modifying the wall would be necessary. That's because the wall is not straight. It kicks in towards basically towards 26th Street. So we wouldn't have enough space without modifying the wall to keep that sidewalk all the way through. That will be expensive, but just something to think about if we wanted to have a sidewalk there. I haven't started the civil portion of this yet, but I think we can manipulate the space and probably avoid modifying the wall. Also, she shows the location of the amphitheater. Yes, did you?
Do you know who built Crooked Wall?
Actually, the city did. Philip gave me plans of the wall, actually. Okay, so the amphitheater has changed location. Again, this is still preliminary, but when Mel and I went out to the site with her and walked it, and she placed it there based on the topography and also out of consideration for buffering the neighbors on 26th Street and the direction of prevailing winds and also the sun and where the sun would be going down as you're looking at the stage, because she knows a lot of our events would happen in the evening. So that's why it is where it is. She proposes not a hardscaped amphitheater, but using pretty much the existing grades and topography, and just having a raised wooden platform as the stage. She also has added a fountain, and next to the playground, if you look in the kind of the southwest corner. So a fountain, and then the playground. The observation tower is shown where it originally was with the pedestrian bridge. And also she's added an observation dock. When we were out there, she was amazed at the view where the two portions of the canal come together. So I think that's why she added that part. kind of a nice addition. And then the trail that you see, she's specifying a crushed shell walking path, 5 or 6 feet wide. That could also be a paved walking path or a gravel walking path that kind of meanders through the park. And she's also added a dog park area there on the north side. We may have to manipulate that a little bit too, based on the grades, but. So any questions on the layout yet?
I have no question on the layout, but I do see the buffer fence.
Yes.
Down for the bordering neighbors, so I like that.
Right. Something about the lighting I wanted to mention, you'll see in the cost estimate, but we did discuss lighting, and one thing that she thought would be best would be to only have lighting for the pavilion and the restrooms, not lighting throughout the park at night, to not encourage people to come at night, and also out of consideration of 26th Street, so they don't have a bright, always lit area there.
That's good. I
But
like
the
that.
light, excuse me.
I just said I like the idea of, you don't want to encourage people to just be out there at all hours of the night.
I noticed the cost estimate for the lighting was very high. Was it 65?
I think it was only 500 on the
It's
lighting.
$500.
Yeah.
Okay. I misread the line.
So before we move on to the cost estimate, she also included some pictures. Did we get the print? Did we print the pictures? Oh, good.
Yes.
So just wanted to point out when because that kind of makes it easier to visualize, the observation tower I thought was pretty unique. I don't know if that's what you'll decide to go with, but she tried to pick both the observation tower and the playground equipment to be kind of themed and more specialized to Mexico Beach. Kind of a unique, some unique ideas that she pulled.
Is the interactive fountain, is that a fountain or is that the splash pad?
I think
Or
she-
did we eliminate the splash pad?
I think she was vague on that on purpose. When she priced the splash pad, it was fairly high, so I think she just wanted a placeholder there, so it could be there as
So
a.
we could have a, in
Yeah.
years to come, or if somebody wins the lottery and wants to donate it. Okay.
Right. We were hoping to get comments back from you all regarding the site plan, maybe over the next week or two, so that we can start kind of jumping into the real design. I submitted a revised budget to Mel based on that, but I don't know how soon we can get the comments. I don't know if you're going to send them to me individually or if we need to have a special meeting to cover that. But assuming we were able to get them in the next week or two, we would shoot for January 12th for the finalized layout from Gina, and then also a rendering. She would provide a rendering, an updated cost analysis with phasing, which she hasn't done yet. She wanted to hear kind of your priorities first. And yes, and that submittal would also include 60% civil drawings. And then if you were happy with it at that point, we could go ahead and submit for the permits. And then we were shooting for the February 8th council meeting to have our final drawings. But again, that depends on when we get the comments back. So.
Well, we already know the golf cart park and we don't need.
Mhm.
So, and, you know, some of these items, and this might be a month down the road, but the picnic tables, benches, and so forth, if we can't afford what we would like, we can always put it out and ask
yeah.
people, just like we did the trees along 98 and by the pier. They donated a tree in memory of somebody or in honor of somebody, and people might be wanting to do that with a
Right.
little plaque.
Right.
So the bathroom 16 by 8, that's this, with 3 ladies' stalls. That's what this is?
Yeah, I don't think that's a final, but I think that's what she used for her cost estimate, was that size and also the size of the pavilion that she provides. If you're ready, we can go through the cost estimate. Take your time reviewing it. Even though I say we'd like to have comments back in a week or two, we want you to have time to look at it too.
Did we get an answer, I know it's been up for debate, as to whether we can have a gravel drive, or do we have to pave all of this parking and driveway in?
Well, the LDR, this is a non-conforming use per the LDR, however, the park. The LDR would indicate that it would be paved. However, I think that you could justify having the grass parking there under the trees to minimize taking out trees that provide shade, and also that could be maybe considered overflow parking, so
Where are you
that's
talking
really
about?
up to you. Where it says golf cart,
Where what?
where it says golf cart parking,
Oh.
she intends for that entire area to be grass.
Oh,
And so we would have concrete curb stops to designate the parking spaces. And I think the intent with that is a portion of it would kind of act as overflow parking, or not always a parking lot, but when there's an event, people would park there.
So I think if we just all give you our comments over the next couple of weeks, and then maybe have Gina come to our workshop in January
Okay.
and talk about those comments and go through the cost and prioritize.
Sure.
We agree more than you think.
what did you say? What did you say you agreed?
I hate it when we agree. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Personally, looking at this layout, it's got all this stuff. It's just a matter of where you shuffle the stuff, and she did a good job at figuring out where we're gonna put some parking.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's
those
a
kind
really
of
unique
things.
parking layout.
And Parking was always an issue to everybody. It seemed
Yeah.
like number one on the miscellaneous sheet. That looks pretty good. Again, if we can stay away from paved areas and paved paths, I prefer that in a park. Been to a bunch of them, and I don't see a lot of asphalt. Surely, it's something that we can figure out there. But this is a good list,
Okay.
and yeah, we're gonna have to prioritize it and phase it.
And that's, I think, part of the feedback she's trying to gauge. I'm sure this budget number is a lot higher than what we'd
Yes.
expected. But this is kind of an all of it. And so she wants to hear your comments and kind of prioritize it so that she can phase it in terms of cost as well. But I did want to point out, it looks like the biggest items would be the interactive fountain. And I think when she says that, she's indicating splash pad. Also, the restroom, 65,000. Wait. No, I'm sorry. That's the
Observation tower.
pavilion.
That's the one.
The pavilion was 65,000. The pedestrian bridge, that would be obviously a little bit higher. It's a prefab, and I think we measured about 150 feet lawn on that. So the observation dock is also one of the biggest items you can see.
Well, I mean, when you look at, this is a complete plan to complete that park, and we're looking at around $500,000. I was actually expecting at least twice that, so I'm pleasantly surprised.
It doesn't include, or does it, I can't read that fast, paving anything. Just park, as far as parking goes, right?
It's got some at the bottom.
What is it?
That's asphalt
Oh,
walkway.
yeah, walkway.
I mean, none of our parks are paved now.
You're talking about the parking, the
Right, I mean,
parking.
none of our parks are paved now, so. I mean, if we have to grant ourselves a variance to the LDR to not pave, then we can do that.
But aren't there now some rules with the ADA on your handicap parking?
Your handicap would have to be concrete.
Just to pave.
But, that's, I'll give an example. I'm working on a park now in Lynn Haven, and they're doing exactly that. All of the parking is grass. The ADA parking spaces are concrete, and part of the reason they're doing that is to reduce the impervious area for stormwater. And so, I mean, you would be kind of, you would probably have to grant yourself a variance, but at the same time, I think you can justify that.
Is she showing that the driveway is gonna be paved? Because, of course, we know it doesn't hold up. So, I mean, I think at least the drive probably is gonna need paving there at the wall.
We talked about that. She wanted to price it as just gravel for now, with the intent to pave it. We've done a design for it. So we could put down the amount of gravel that would be required up front and have it temporarily be gravel if you intend to pave it later, and we would just make sure that we put down enough gravel that then you could come back and pave it. The only issue with it is once it's paved, it's going to have to drain, we'll still have to do water quality for the site. So once we pave it, we're gonna have to collect it and pipe it to wherever we do our water quality. And that's a little bit harder. If we intend to pave it later and we do gravel now, it would make sense to put in the stormwater infrastructure before you put the gravel. Otherwise, you're gonna take the gravel out and put the storm pipes in. So we'd have to really think about a way to do that, to pave it and then protect the inlets and install the infrastructure for the stormwater now. Yeah.
The entire property is surrounded by a stormwater facility.
Correct.
Wouldn't we just have to
So we do not.
pipe the water from the driveway into that?
No. We've talked to DEP about it. That is fine for attenuation. So the quantity of water, we don't have to, we can release, the quantity of water is not an issue. So we don't have to build a pond to hold back the water and release it at a slower rate. The issue is water quality. We still have to treat the paved areas for water quality. However, I'm still looking at, because previously this was developed with the Parker House. So it may be that we can find an exemption if we're, what used to be impervious, if we can counterbalance that and not add impervious over what was originally there before the Parker House burned down. That might be an option. It might be an exception, but I still believe we're gonna have to treat for water quality through DEP.
If we go pave.
Yes.
Which is really no more than a collection box and let it run out of there.
It would really just be a depressed area that holds the water long enough it can infiltrate the first 1 inch of runoff over the entire property, yeah.
To eliminate sedimentation.
Yeah, well, to allow sedimentation before it hits the canal, yeah.
Here's my thoughts. Fine, I'll give you my feedback on all the individual components there. If we wait until the end of January, is that what you guys are saying? The end of January or the pre-agenda workshop in the beginning of January? Doesn't matter to you. Here's my concern. I'll jump to the chase. The Gumbo Festival in February. Are we planning on having it there? We certainly don't need all of that. All what we need is a halfway decent drive to get people in. And we need bathrooms, although Special Events has done porta potties before. So my question is, can we direct Special Events to start planning to use that park as